Cotton Club. Please take a seat. Hello, and welcome to the Cotton Club, where you will learn about the Roaring '20s. The Cotton Club was a big place in the '20s that included the latest hits. Let's learn more.
Hello, and welcome to the Cotton Club, where you can get down and boogie to some smooth jazz and do the Charleston. The first Cotton Club was founded by Jack Johnson, called the Club Deluxe. Later, a gangster took over the club and renamed it the Cotton Club as we know today. The original Cotton Club is still here at 142nd Street and Lenox Avenue in New York. But I don't suggest going there because it is a nightclub.
Al Capone was one of the first organized crime bosses of America. Let's learn how he gave Chicago a bad reputation that lives to this day.
Al Capone, Trevor Alphonse Capone. He was born in the borough of Brooklyn, born January 17, 1899. He was one of the first infamous criminals known for selling alcohol during the Prohibition era. Before he was caught, he sold alcohol for 7 years. He went to jail for tax evasion in 1931 and was sentenced to stay for a record-breaking time, 11 years in federal prison. He died at age 48 in Palm Island, Florida in 1947. He also had a bulletproof car, but the government took it away from him when he was arrested. He must have missed that car.
Charles Lindbergh proved that flight could be done. Let's learn about his epic journey.
Charles Lindbergh was the first aviator to so fly over the Atlantic. The flight before his solo, he flew with Amelia Earhart. If you don't know Amelia Earhart, she was the first woman aviator. Charles started his flying career because he loved to adventure and explore. He knew the fastest mobile that could help in his adventures, the airplane. Charles became very famous for his flying in the Roaring '20s. All in all, he was a great achiever.
Langston Hughes was a very famous poet in the Harlem Renaissance. Let's learn more. Langston Hughes was a famous African-American poet. He invented the art of jazz poetry. Hughes was known for his distinguishing representation of black life in America. He was the head of the Harlem Renaissance. He also wrote short stories, plays, and novels. Hughes' jazz poetry influenced Walt Whitman and Carl Sandburg. His work had a big encouragement on the creative contributions of the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s. Louis Armstrong invented a new type of music. Let's learn about him and the jazz age.
Louis Armstrong was an African-American jazz musician from the 1920s to the 1970s. He played the trumpet and the cornet, which are both similar instruments. He also popularized scat, a style of singing rooms and made up words or part of words instead of full sentences. For example, screw-bop-top,
Babe Ruth changed the game of baseball into America's game. Let's learn how he impacted America. George Herman Ruth Jr. was born February 6, 1895 in a rough area of Baltimore, Maryland. After a tough childhood, he was in the St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys. In 1914, George Ruth signed a baseball contract for $250 a month and soon afterwards got the nickname Babe. In 1919, Babe Ruth was playing for the Boston Red Sox and broke the Major League single-season home run record of 28. Yes, just 28 home runs. In 1920, he was sold to the New York Yankees for $100,000, which was the largest sum ever paid for a player. Babe Ruth led the Yankees to many victories, including 7 league championships and 4 World Series titles. Babe Ruth retired from baseball after 21 years at the end of the 1935 season. Babe Ruth died in his sleep in a hospital on August 16, 1948, at the age of 53. Henry Ford made traveling easier in the 20s and changed the way people worked. Listen to find out how.
Henry Ford accomplished a major feat during the early 20s. He made the cheapest, manageable, and easiest made car in the world.
It only costs about $10,000 in total. Back then, it was $500. He produced around 100 Model Ts in one day. The Model Ts were the most honorable car he made. He made an easy way to make these cars. He'd put the car on an assembly line, and while it went down, the workers would put on the different parts. This made a car in only about 10 minutes. He named his company the Ford Motor Company. The Model T could travel across almost anything, even big creeks, with ease. This was 95 years ago, so this was very impressive. Ford didn't just make cars. He started to make airplanes in World War I. He made the Ford 4AT trimotor, which had guns on the sides. He died in 1947, having an honorable life.
Women's society in the 20s worked to get women the right to vote. We all know how that ended, but let's learn how they became successful.
Up until 1920, women did not have the same rights as men did. They were taken for granted. That was until the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment was probably the most important amendment to women. It allowed women the same rights as men. Have you ever heard of Susan B. Anthony? Her whole life was about the voting to the Women's Suffrage Act. She voted even though she knew she couldn't and was arrested. Finally, in 1920, all of her hard work paid off. The government passed the 19th Amendment. It was called the Women's Suffrage Act of 1920.
Pop culture in the 20s was interesting the way they dressed and danced. Let's listen to see the fashion and dance of the 20s.
Hey guys, I'm Mary Claire.
And I'm Rose. Mary Claire, I love your flopper dress.
And your bob is adorable.
What do you say we hit the dance floor?
Do you know the Charleston?
Who doesn't?
Let's do it.
Finally, Ella Fitzgerald was a famous singer during this time period. What was surprising was that she was a girl. Please listen to why this was surprising.
April 25th, 1917 was the beginning of an amazing African-American jazz singer, Ella Fitzgerald. Later, when she was a teen, she sung at the Apollo Theater in Harlem and blew the audience away. The most famous thing about Ella is that she walked out of the Cotton Club and didn't perform because she felt that she didn't want to sing at a place that didn't treat African Americans with equality. She was also one of few people that got to perform at the Cotton Club.
I hope you learned as much as we did about the Roaring 20s.